Sheila Carter moved like a woman who had already won. Each step echoed with self-assured cruelty. Each smile held the venom of a predator certain of her position at the top of the food chain. In her world, power was a performance, calculated, performed with the confidence of someone who had outrun the law, the lies, and the limits of human empathy. And now, with Luna caged in both body and reputation, Sheila declared the game over. She strutted through corridors of privilege and whispered venom into Steffi's ear with the satisfaction of a woman who believed she had wiped the slate clean. "Luna is finished," she had said, to anyone who would listen. "She has no door left to crawl through." But the problem with people like Sheila was that they believed cages were permanent. They mistook silence for surrender, and they failed, always, to imagine what desperation could build behind closed doors. Luna, locked away, was not broken. She was watching. She was learning. And every day she remained in confinement, she folded her pain inward, compacting it until it became something sharper, something more dangerous. While Sheila celebrated her premature victory, Luna was carving an exit with the one tool no jailer could see well. The system was never built to hold women like Luna. Systems were built for neat narratives, for victims and villains, for the visible scars. But Luna had learned to move between roles, to appear harmless, cooperative, even grateful. She signed the forms. She nodded at the hearings. She accepted her treatment as prescribed. But beneath the surface, she was assembling something far more volatile, a plan, born of memory, rage, and a refusal to be erased. It had started long before the bars, long before the accusations. Luna had always existed on the periphery of Steffi's world, never quite part of it, always somehow beneath it. Steffi, with her impossible elegance and chilling certainty, had been one of the first to look at Luna and see nothing but a threat. And Sheila, ever the master of weaponizing perception, had used that distrust to full advantage. She painted Luna as unstable, obsessive, dangerous. She engineered situations where Luna's words could be twisted, her motives questioned, her very sanity reduced to a talking point in a courtroom drama. But every lie had a shelf life. And the longer Sheila pushed her narrative, the more brittle it became. While she built her empire of false safety around Steffi, the cracks began to form. It was in the inconsistencies, the erased footage, the surveillance gaps too clean to be accidental. But the public didn't see that. Not yet. Because Sheila had bought the silence, paid off the judges, charmed the press. Her version of the truth became canon. Luna became a ghost. Only ghosts don't stay dead. Luna's escape wasn't sudden. It wasn't dramatic. It was surgical. A series of paper cuts that Sheila didn't notice until she was already bleeding. A misfiled form here. A sympathetic staff member reassigned without question. A locked door accidentally left unlatched. Luna didn't run. She evaporated. And by the time anyone realized she was gone, the storm was already coming. She didn't reach for the obvious target first. Luna didn't break into mansions or send threatening letters. That would have been expected. She slipped through the spaces between systems, gathering evidence, allies, leverage. The kind of leverage that didn't scream, but whispered in the right ears. Lawyers began receiving anonymous packages. Journalists found themselves in possession of damning audio. Surveillance footage surfaced, altered, reversed, restored. And slowly, the myth of Sheila's perfect control began to fray. Meanwhile, Steffi lived in a fragile peace, unaware that her reflection was about to crack. She believed Sheila's lie, that Luna was gone, that her name would be forgotten, that all was finally calm. She moved through her days with a mother's focus and a CEO's precision. But deep beneath the glass and gold veneer of her world, Luna was already making her way back. For Luna, this wasn't just about justice. It was about erasure. She had been rewritten as unstable, toxic, monstrous. She had been watched, diagnosed, discarded. And now, with freedom in her hands and vengeance in her blood, she had a single destination: Steffi. Because Steffi wasn't just a symbol of everything Luna had lost. She was the woman who stood silently while Sheila burned Luna's life down. And silence was complicity. Sheila, sensing her grip slipping, grew erratic. Her bravado began to sour. She screamed louder, doubled down on her proclamations. "Luna is finished," she repeated, almost desperately. But even the most loyal began to flinch. Her eyes no longer held confidence. They held fear. Because Sheila had seen this before, in herself. The moment when a woman stopped running and began hunting. The moment when prey became predator. The violence didn't come with blood, at least not at first. It came in the form of exposure. The therapy notes doctored by Sheila. The financial trails leading to bribes. The forged documents. All of it, released piece by piece, until the institutions that had once protected her began to buckle under their own weight. Her power, once absolute, now felt like a house on fire. Steffi, caught in the middle, began to feel the walls closing in. The press hounded her. Investors grew uneasy. Her own family whispered about the return of someone they had tried to forget. She looked into her daughter's eyes and wondered how long until Luna came for them. Not with a gun or a knife, but with the truth. And truth, when it's been buried too long, explodes on impact. Brooke tried to warn her. So did Ridge. But Steffi didn't want warnings. She wanted control. She tightened security. She staged a press statement. She painted Luna once again as unstable, a fugitive, a danger to herself and others. But this time, the public didn't swallow it so easily. There were too many holes. Too many coincidences. And the footage, undeniable, of Luna weeping silently in an institution while Sheila laughed over her shoulder. That was the beginning of the end. Steffi watched it on loop, alone in her study. And something inside her broke. But Luna wasn't done. The final confrontation wasn't public. Luna didn't need cameras. She needed clarity. She needed Steffi to see her not as a shadow, but as a reckoning. She waited in the one place she knew Steffi would come without guards, without fanfare. The cemetery where Finn had once begged for peace between their families. Luna stood by a gravestone, wind howling like a whisper from the dead, and waited. When Steffi arrived, she didn't run. She didn't scream. She simply stared. And in that moment, between two women who had once been orbiting different lives, a single question formed in the silence between them. Which one of us do you think deserves to be erased? Because only one could walk away unchanged. And somewhere in the distance, a scream fractured the dawn. Luna had vanished like smoke. Not a single camera caught her slipping out of the facility. No fingerprints, no broken locks, no trail of blood. Just an empty room with an open window that led nowhere, and a silence so complete it screamed. Authorities scrambled, news outlets speculated, and those who once declared her fate sealed now whispered what they had always feared. Luna had outwitted the system. But for those who had condemned her, her escape wasn't just a crisis. It was an indictment. A statement of war. She was no longer a patient, no longer a prisoner. She was the storm they thought they had outrun. Sheila, ever the architect of delusion, tried to spin it in her favor. "She's dangerous," she told the press, trembling with performance. "We tried to help her. We tried to save her. But now she's a threat to everyone she once loved." Yet behind the scenes, her mask cracked. Because Sheila knew, intimately, viscerally, that the only thing more dangerous than a woman wronged was a woman forgotten, reborn in her own rage. Luna was no longer just returning for justice. She was returning to rewrite the ending. And at the heart of that ending stood Steffi. But the first blow wouldn't land where anyone expected. It wouldn't strike Steffi or Ridge or even Sheila. It would fall on someone innocent. Someone beloved. Someone who had nothing to do with the war that had begun in whispers and ended in screams. Will Spencer was the symbol of a future untouched by the sins of his parents. Charming, brilliant, unguarded. He was too young to understand the fault lines beneath the families that surrounded him. The whispered betrayals. The generational blood feuds. The quiet rivalries that could crush a soul. For him, Life was still unfolding until the day it stopped. The morning began without fanfare. Will was scheduled to meet a friend at the marina. It was supposed to be ordinary. But sometime between stepping onto the boat and the wind rising across the water, something went wrong. Witnesses said he slipped. Others claimed they saw a figure on the dock, a woman with long dark hair, watching him fall. The call came in minutes later. A body in the water. A desperate attempt to resuscitate. But it was too late. Will Spencer, beloved son of Katie Logan and Bill Spencer, was gone. The world tilted. Katie collapsed into silence. Bill shattered into pieces no one could glue back. The news was merciless, the headlines brutal. A golden boy lost. A tragedy without warning. But the whispers came quickly. Was it really an accident? Who was the woman on the dock? Why had Will's phone been turned off? Why was the marina security footage missing 15 minutes of recording? And in a moment of quiet horror, a single letter was discovered in Will's bag, and signed, printed, wet with seawater, but still legible. 10 words. They made me disappear. Now I return the favor. Brooke read it first. Then Bill. Then Ridge. None of them spoke. Because each of them understood the unthinkable. This was no longer just a revenge story.
This was personal now.
Visceral. Unforgivable. Luna had moved beyond justice. She had crossed into something ancient. Something primal. A grief-driven hunger to balance scales that could never be even. They had taken everything from her, her life, her sanity, her name. Now she was taking something back. Not to win, but to hurt.
Deeply. Permanently.
But was she truly the one who pushed Will into the water? The question spread like rot. Some believed she was framed, again. Others believed she had finally lost herself to the chaos they forced her into. Steffi refused to grieve publicly. Sheila retreated entirely. Bill, once a titan of media and steel, broke down in front of the camera. "My son is dead," he whispered. "And someone is going to pay." Meanwhile, Luna watched from afar, anonymous in a crowd, her face hidden beneath a scarf and her hands trembling. Not from guilt, but from the weight of inevitability. She hadn't touched Will. She hadn't meant for him to die. But his death had become a part of her story now, stitched into the fabric of her vengeance like a final, blood-soaked thread. The truth, however, remained elusive. Because in the darkness, someone else watched too. Someone who had everything to gain from Luna's return being drenched in violence. Someone who had orchestrated chaos before and knew how to twist narratives to their breaking point. Someone who still whispered in Steffi's ear when the lights went out. And as the storm clouds gathered again over Los Angeles, one image lingered. A child's shoes left